Welcome, folks. I'm Jabby Kawai, joined by KIRK.
What's up?
We are watching the new Rockstars breakdown of The Last of Us Episode 4. Thanks so much for joining us. Please make sure to hit that subscribe button, bell icon, all notifications, and pretty please vote this up. Let YouTube know you're enjoying what you're watching, and subscribe to New Rockstars as well. There's a link in the description below for the video that we're about to watch. If you want to click on that link, give the original upvote, and subscribe to them from there. Let them know Jabby sent you. All right, here we go.
Welcome back to New Rockstars. I'm Eric Voss, and this is a breakdown of The Last of Us Episode 4, Please Hold My Hand, which proves Ozark right that only the worst people come from Kansas City, Missouri. Hey, I'm not saying it. Prestige TV is. Let's break down all the Easter eggs, references to the games, and interesting details that you might have missed. And please subscribe to New Rockstars' new channel, The Deep Dive, launching February 17th with a slate of more investigatory analyses of titles you love, like Everything Everywhere All at Once. Also, this shirt is our Last of Us inspired Look for the Light shirt that you can get at nerdriot.shop. We open on Ellie in the bathroom, aiming the pistol that she got from Frank's drawer at the mirror like she's Travis Bickle in Taxi Driver. This gun is a Beretta 70 series lightweight pistol, which the game developers modeled Ellie's gun on. But she coddles this gun. She's not completely clueless, but she's romanticizing the weapon and not really treating it with the respect that she should. Like Travis Bickle, Ellie is more concerned with her appearance as a hardened killer than the actual weight of that responsibility. Also notice she is in the men's bathroom here. She's fully masculinizing herself. Now, I'm not gonna waste your time with some mirrors or portals, high school English bullshit, because, you know, not every mirror in every TV show or movie means the same thing. Literary symbols are only important to the context in which they're presented. In this context, it's more interesting to talk about the practical purpose of mirrors, because mirrors are one of many luxuries this world has less of now. Remember, Ellie toyed with the truck's side view mirror to find Joel eyeing her in the reflection last episode, and it's really the mirror and Ellie's reflection in it with the gun that is more of Ellie's fascination than wielding the gun itself. While Ellie also acquired from Bill and Frank her iconic red shirt from the games, the green plaid shirt that Joel changed into after his shower was actually the same shirt Frank wore on the day of Bill's argument.
I missed that.
Joel is siphoning some gas.
Nice. How does that work?
It's a siphon. It's when liquid travels against gravity because pressure.
You don't know.
I know it works.
Another example of Joel not really understanding air pressure. The front door in Bill's house slammed on its own because Bill had left the bedroom window open. But actually, Joel siphoning gas is a nod to Bill in the game, who tosses him a siphon and says that you'd be amazed how many cars still got gas in them. Ellie reads from Will Livingston's No Pun Intended Volume 2, which is one of Ellie's belongings in the games. It's one of the things that you cannot open yourself, but Ellie in cutscenes does read from it. The cover here is the same cover from the game, with the cow saying, "Oh no, not an udder one." Saying, "These puns quack me up." The one that she reads,
"It doesn't matter how much you push the envelope, it'll still be stationary,"
is actually the first one she reads in the game.
It doesn't matter how much you push the envelope, it'll still be stationary.
What is that?
It's a joke book. No Pun Intended, Volume 2, by Will Livingston.
There's also some pretty precise accuracy to the game with the gay porn magazine that Ellie finds, which is the exact same bearskin cover, same model pose, same text, Men of the Den, college hotties, Ace Vaughn champ, and Ellie making the same jokes.
It's not for kids,
How do
Ellie.
you even walk around with that thing?
Please get rid of it.
Hold your horses. I want to see what all the fuss is about. Why are all these pages stuck together?
I'm just so awkward.
Whoa! How the hell would he even walk around with that thing?
Get rid of
Look,
that.
hold your horses. I want to see what all the fuss is about. Why are these all stuck together? I'm just f***ing with you.
Now, in the game, when Ellie tosses out the magazine, it lands in front of a Pittsburgh sign, but because this episode takes us beyond Pittsburgh, there is no sign. The cassette tape that Ellie finds that's before Joel's time is, in the game, Hank Williams' I'll Never Get Out of This World Alive, but here, it's Hank Williams' Alone and Forsaken, which is a darker folk song about finding love in the summertime, just for that love to leave him by the fall. And the chorus of the song is a prayer. Oh Lord, if you hear me, please hold to my hand. Oh, please understand. Hold to my hand, the inspiration for this episode's title of Please Hold My Hand. But in this case, the woman who left us here is really the America that we once knew. And the fact that it left us, though, not the worst thing. The amusement park they pass is actually Worlds of Fun near Kansas City, Missouri, and that roller coaster is the Mamba, a ride that opened in 1998. The roller coaster is made of steel, explaining why it would still be intact, mostly. They drive past some bison and the westward expansion across the United States with the railroad. In the 19th century, many species of bison were hunted to extinction by passing train travelers, shooting them for sport. But here, we now see bison herding peacefully by the highway. They also pass an Arby's, recalling Frank's comeback last episode.
And this is not an Arby's.
Arby's didn't have free lunch. It was a restaurant.
Then they pass this collapsed train bridge. This is an actual bridge in Lethbridge, Alberta, and notice how a train stretches across it, a car dangling off. Now, if the world shut down not too long after Outbreak Day, that probably would have been too soon for the bridge to corrode naturally and collapse on its own. So either this train was warmed back up years after Outbreak Day and the bridge then collapsed, or maybe the government bombed this bridge to stop this train from reaching a nearby city. They pull off the road to sleep in the woods with no campfire to avoid being spotted by people. As this series in this episode is adding to the danger of infected, the danger of humanity.
So what are they gonna do, rob us?
Well, they'll have way more in mind than that.
Okay.
Now, Joel tells her this to give a stern warning to not wander, but later as they try to sleep, she brings it up again.
Those people you said. There's no way anyone knows we're here, right? No one's gonna find us.
No one's gonna find us.
So Joel regrets scaring her, and so he stays up all night to keep a lookout with his rifle. He is doing for her what we assume Bill did for many nights for Frank, letting his partner sleep while he keeps watch. That's why the coffee the next morning is so essential for Joel. Ellie crawls over to it, cocooned in Frank's sleeping bag. Episode 2 depicted her in a larval fetal stage as a butterfly flapped over her head, and now she's in the cocoon phase of her metamorphosis. Now Ellie's roadmap has a red marking for an area east of Pittsburgh, which again is supposed to be the next stop in the game, but here on the show they bypass it.
76 west and then 70 west for like ever.
I-70 does go forever, from western Pennsylvania to Columbus to Indianapolis to St. Louis, then to Kansas City. Joel recaps what happened with Tommy, how Tommy was a joiner who enlisted to fight in Desert Storm, and then after the outbreak formed a crew that moved to Boston and joined up with Tess, and that worked until Tommy met Marlene and then joined the Fireflies, but then quit the Fireflies and moved to Wyoming. Ellie asks,
If you don't think there's hope for the world, why bother going on?
Yeah.
I mean, you gotta try, right?
You haven't seen the world, so you don't know. You keep going for family. That's about it.
I'm not family.
No, you're cargo. But I made a promise to Tess, and she was like family.
I think Joel secretly by now sees Ellie as more than cargo, but he doesn't want her treating him like a father yet. Ellie claims she's tired, but we jump cut to her out like a light as they pull up to Kansas City. Now,
I think that also to that, just to expand a tiny bit, is I think Joel isn't ready to acknowledge those feelings himself.
Yeah, absolutely. He just recently lost Tess, who was like family. And so it's like, and he tried so hard to keep her at arm's length. But even then, you still lose people that you love in this world.
Pittsburgh to KC is a 13-hour drive, which would be more if they have to stop every hour for gas. I don't know, maybe it's late enough in the year for the days to be really long, and when they arrive to Kansas City, it's late afternoon, but we know this is one day because later Ellie says it's her second day in a car. So Joel must have been flooring it the whole way. Either way, our man is exhausted. The tunnel to Kansas City is blocked by a Sarah Lee bread truck. Damn, flour, always ruining everything. And one of the cars is a burnt corpse inside. So these drivers might have been torched to prevent potential infected from getting in the city. They get lost in the city.
The f is a highway.
I can't tell from this. I'm all turned around.
Well, don't look at the state map. Look at the
I
inset.
don't know where we are in that either.
Since Kansas City is on the border of two states, Missouri and Kansas, Ellie would really need to look at a scaled-in city map, not a state map. Now, they pass a cinema playing Matchstick Men and Underworld, both of which released in the month of September 2003.
I noticed
and yes, that is the Globe Theater of Calgary and Alberta, Canada, where they shot a lot of these outdoor scenes. Now, in an alley is a burnt pile of corpses, and you can actually see their skulls intact, which Joel explained last episode means that these people were killed without being infected, which is bad news. They find the QZ vacated though, and Joel immediately sees it's a trap.
Are we gonna help him?
No.
As we saw in the pilot episode, Joel does not stop for anyone. Later he tells Ellie how he knew it was a trap.
I've been on both sides. It was a long time ago. We did what we needed to survive.
That explains why Joel doesn't pass any moral judgment on these people. He doesn't really take anything personally. They do take things personally, and that's why Joel is able to execute here. He's all business. They crash into a launch
with the pile of bodies that was charred.
Yeah.
The way I took that in my mind was actually a little bit different than the way he was explaining it. But I mean, obviously what Eric Voss is saying makes way more sense than what I'm about to say. But I took that as almost like foreshadowing for what Joel and Ellie might encounter, the type of people that they were about to encounter. Like the type of people they encountered are executors, you know, in meaning they would take people out and kill them and burn them. The leader of this faction killed the doctor. That's what I thought it was connected to. I didn't think further back than that of killing these people who were not even infected.
That is the reality of the situation. You have to make these awful choices in order to survive, very much like Joel's decision to not stop for anyone. And that's just been who he has been from the beginning, because he is all about survival, and so is everybody at this point.
They crash into a laundromat where they get holed up by gunfire.
They're not gonna hit you. Look at me. They're not gonna hit you.
Yeah, pretty confident words considering everything is exploding around them, but Joel called his shots earlier this episode.
What if you don't find him?
I will.
How do you know?
I'm persistent.
So Joel takes out one of the hunters, which catches the other by surprise.
You mother...
I like that we hear these hunters in the background, but we never cut to them in close-up, reflecting the experience playing the game, where we stay with Joel's point of view and have to listen to all these NPCs cussing you out.
I was thinking that while that part of the episode was playing, was that, oh, this is pretty much just like what you would experience in the game. You're not cutting to those individuals, but you do hear them, and you hear them getting, like, for lack of a better word, emotional, angry, frustrated about the situation, and desperate.
I hadn't even thought about that. Yeah. That's such a good little detail. I definitely noticed that, but I think I'm not as much of a gamer as you to really recognize that that is a kind of game trope where it's just focused on the character that you're playing rather than all the other ones surrounding them doing stuff to them.
Sure. I feel like that is something that you started to see from something like The Last of Us, where you're hearing the characters. I mean, I think if you go further back, Metal Gear Solid, maybe you would have heard something like that, but this sort of camaraderie of like, oh, my friend went down, and the response to that and getting angry about that is, I feel like, very hyper-specific to The Last of Us, or at least it's the first time I noticed it.
The younger hunter gets the drop on Joel. Yeah, and we really get a sense of the rage of these hunters. They aren't NPCs. They're people who are reacting to Joel killing their friends and relatives. And Ellie shoots this kid, but it's not really like the moment from the game where Ellie uses her gun the first time to shoot that guy off Joel when he tries to drown him in the hotel. This is a much more sadder, more human moment. We don't even see the bullet hit. We only know from the kid's bloody hand that she got him in the butt, and he panics.
No, it's okay. It's okay. It's over. We're not fighting
I thought he said he can't feel his legs.
I'll tell everyone you're good.
I thought you got him in the back.
Me too.
Yeah, this isn't a Walking Dead savior who's evil to the bitter end. This is more like Mellish's heartbreaking death in Saving Private Ryan. This kid is begging for his life, and he tells him his name to try to make himself harder to kill, which is one of the first things Frank did when he met Bill.
Yeah.
First, my name's Frank.
Brian. What's your name?
But it doesn't work, and Joel kills Brian. But not with Ellie's Beretta, but with a knife. And actually, learning Brian's name gives us more info later when the other hunters arrive.
Brian!
Oh.
From here, we cut to a former Fedra prison facility where there are bullet holes and bloodstains on the walls, showing us that this place was taken by force. The hunter's leader is Kathleen Melanie Linsky, a new character created for the HBO series, and she interrogates this doctor.
The Bergquists. No. Mark Anthony Halpin. Carrie Schreiber. Haven't seen them. The Chans. Henry Burrell.
Mark Anthony Halpin is actually a nod to Craig Mazin's friend and a known puzzle master, Mark Halpin. Craig Mazin is a huge hobbyist when it comes to puzzles and things like that.
I was like so confident that when she was saying those names, I'm like, those have to be names connected to the creators in some way. It just has to be.
It often is.
Yeah.
I think maybe people would be surprised to see how many times people kind of just throw in random crew and friends' names. I did a teeny tiny role on Fringe, and I was in the Fringe department, and I had like a name badge, and it said Beth Boxall. I found out later that was someone on the crew. That was their name. They just gave that to me for my character. Like, you don't really see it.
List of names reminds us of Hans Landa's interrogation at the beginning of Inglourious Basterds, when he lists the names of Jewish families who went into hiding. This is often what happens when a new military force violently takes over and wants to root out all the families they deem disloyal to the new regime. But as Kathleen reads the Federal Rights Board, medical attention, family visit, food, and clothing, she reveals these as false promises from an old guard that she suffered under.
I wonder if this is the cell where my brother was beaten to death.
The doctor tries to clean his hands of all these war crimes.
It has to stop.
It has to stop now, you mean?
Now, I know I just compared Kathleen to a Nazi character. She's also similar to a Mossad agent hunting down doctors who work for the Nazis. She wants revenge, all the evil that hurt her loved ones, to never be able to hurt anyone ever again. And that includes guilt by association. So she wants to find Henry, whom she believes ratted on her brother to Fedra, and the doctor won't tell her where Henry is. He thinks she's bluffing.
I'm your doctor.
But the hunters bring back the people Joel wounded and killed, and we see that he stabbed Brian in the chest. An arguably more merciful wound than, I guess, cutting his throat. At least this gets to be an open casket. Kathleen asks,
Will he live? What if I had a doctor?
There's no chance. I'm sorry.
and I love this moment. Immediately, we see Kathleen go back and shoot the doctor. She wasn't asking with hope that she might save these wounded. She was asking to make sure she had no further excuse to keep that doctor alive. Kathleen is not thinking about the long-term health of this community. In her mind, they're facing a more short-term threat, and she's more focused on revenge.
Yes.
That
yes.
makes a lot of sense. I'm glad he told that, because I thought that when she killed him, it was more about anger and just needing a place to focus that anger, that rage.
Obviously, I'm not her, right? Like, I haven't lost a sibling. If I had lost a sibling, maybe I would be that enraged. But in my mind, I'm going, oh, doctors are a hot commodity, I'm sure. Especially, you know, if people aren't going to medical school, I imagine. Like, someone who actually has that experience is someone who is valuable. And even if they did all of those things, maybe it's worth keeping them around just in case you might need a doctor. I thought that it was because she was like, oh, okay, I don't know what I thought.
It seems like your thought that you were trying to express was similar to what he expressed. It was like, we're done. We don't need him anymore.
We don't need him anymore. But yeah, it does feel to me to be quite
careless.
Careless and short-sighted.
Yeah.
Kathleen links these hunters' death with Henry, speculating that Henry radioed Joel in, and she uses this to justify sending the hunters out to the homes of every collaborator to kill them. This is a pretty big logical leap, and it's crazy that it works.
Yeah.
It just shows how afraid and how nuts these people are.
Exactly.
That's the American way, folks. Now notice how their
I think
trucks
that's just
were
humanity.
former Fedra, but the logos have been crossed out since this group overthrew Fedra. These are hunters that we meet in Pittsburgh in the game, and this group is not Fireflies. They actually turned against the Fireflies too after they overthrew Fedra. On the newspaper, Joel peeks out through. There's a headline about Powell, presumably referring to Colin Powell, who was Secretary of State in 2003 and made a lot of headlines for his UN testimony when the US invaded Iraq earlier that year. There's actually another one behind Ellie with the headline, Iraq cost $3.9 billion a month. You know, the way Bush used 9/11 to invade Iraq is kind of like how Kathleen uses Joel killing a few hunters to wipe out all the political enemies in Kansas City, despite these two things actually being unrelated. It's human nature, folks. Joel struggles to debrief with Ellie after the situation with Brian.
I know what it's like. First time that you hurt someone like that. If you, I'm not good at this.
Yeah, you really aren't.
Joel apologizes, saying that Ellie shouldn't have had to shoot him. Ellie cries, but she reveals why.
It wasn't my first time.
Yeah, Ellie isn't crying over shooting Brian, she's crying over some past person that she hurt. Joel teaches Ellie how to hold the gun with two hands, thumbs interlocked, which makes it harder for her to drop the gun when it recoils or if someone were to try to grab it. Now, Kathleen's lieutenant is Perry, played by Jeffrey Pierce, who plays Tommy in the games. Jeffrey Pierce actually said in the behind the episode featurette that Perry has a past in the military, making me wonder if he was a former Fedra soldier who turned on the rest of Fedra and helped Kathleen overthrow them. Maybe he was a witness to Kathleen's brother getting beaten to death. He takes her to Henry and Sam's hideout with Sam's drawings of a superhero on the walls. Both Henry and Sam are actually drawn as superheroes. And notice, as Kathleen first enters this attic, one of the superhero's foes is a Fedra soldier in blue uniform and riot gear. So really, Henry and Sam's enemies are the same as Kathleen's enemies. Henry then shows her this caved-in room with a floor that pulsates from beneath, presumably some infected below. I'm gonna talk more about what's going on here in Spoiler Corner. After climbing 33 floors, Joel spreads some broken glass.
I don't want someone sneaking up on us while we're sleeping.
Oh, I get it. Crunch, crunch, crunch. You sure you're gonna hear it?
Of course I'll hear it. That's the damn point.
Again, this has all been one day. Joel got no sleep the night before because he was guarding Ellie. He then drove 13 hours. Then they crashed. Then he had to shoot two guys. And then he was nearly strangled. Then he stabbed that kid. And then he climbed 33 flights. Our man is 56 years old. A bomb could go off and it wouldn't wake him up after this exhausting day. But Joel asked Ellie about the first time she hurt someone. And Ellie, for the first time, doesn't want to talk about something. Ellie then deflects, saying Joel doesn't hear too well out of his right ear. But you know, that's also the side that was facing her in the truck during their drive. He might have just been ignoring her, but Joel doesn't deny it. He attributes it to years of shooting on that side. And Ellie's diarrhea pun relaxes Joel enough so that he can fall asleep. And he is now turned toward Ellie with his watch facing out, his father-daughter connection returning. But Henry and Sam have found them. Sam perched on Joel with a superhero mask painted on his face. And we end the episode with a gun in our face, reminding us of Ellie back in the first scene pointed a gun at the mirror. But in this instance, Sam correctly Ellie has both hands on the gun, signaling to Joel that this kid doesn't need him to teach him how to kill. Okay, on to spoiler corner.
Are you sure you want to hear this part? Are you sure you want to be exposed to this? Because I don't know how, you never know how deep they're going to go with this kind of stuff, if it's going to reveal too much or if it's just a couple of things.
Okay, all right. I'm going to go bye-bye now.
Let's talk about that cave-in. This likely was above the sewer, which in the Pittsburgh section of the game that these episodes are relocating from is where a group of survivors try to make home, but then they all get infected. But since the Bill part of the game is where you meet your first bloater, and we didn't see a bloater in episode 3, I am guessing the trailer shot of the bloater rising up from a hole in the ground might be coming next episode, and a bloater might be among the sewer runners and clickers that are going to be crawling up through this building. But
I feel like that is what's going to conclude the next episode, but I could be wrong. Maybe it's what kicks off the next episode, but I feel like we're going to be dealing with where we left off with Joel and Ellie in the circumstance that they're in, and that just looks like a great way to end an episode, so why wouldn't you do that?
But also, remember, this series is suggesting that the fungus's fibers grow deep beneath the ground and snake through the soil, and are all connected by a network, based off of the world's biggest organism being in Eastern Oregon, a single fungus that spans like 4 square miles. So I think the fibers of this fungus may have helped tunnel beneath this ground to free the infected underneath. It's one big patch of cordyceps all working together to release more of these drones. We'll get to know Sam and Henry next episode, so there's no need to say too much about them, other than the show is really connecting them more to these hunters, that there's some history between Henry and Kathleen, whereas in the game, Henry and Sam arrive to Pittsburgh after coming from Hartford, and don't really have that much of a history with the hunters. And of course, the question, who did Ellie hurt? Well, Joel and Ellie's chat wasn't about shooting someone, it's about hurting someone. So maybe Ellie might just be alluding to some survivor skill over Riley getting infected. We know Riley's undermined. The Mortal Kombat 2 game was a reference to Left Behind when Riley told Ellie about an arcade game. And of course, this joke book was a joke book given to her by Riley. And then remember back earlier in the episode, there was this moment where Ellie looks up at the night sky, which could be setting up the moment from part 2 of the game when Joel takes Ellie to a space museum for her birthday and gives her an audio of an Apollo launch so that she can imagine space travel. This girl, from considering a truck a spaceship, someday she will be able to sit in a real spacecraft.
As usual, Eric Voss has given us some insight that we would otherwise be lacking in terms of the subtleties of the show that they are aiming to express in this particular story. Even with the news articles, like I could see that there were things on there, but I didn't have the patience to try to decrypt it.
Well, you kind of have to like pause it and then like really zoom in and look at it and take the time to decipher it. But I mean, they do a good job of just setting the tone and the feeling. Like it was easy for me to spot the movies on the marquee because you know, that's easy to read. They spent enough time on it that you could see what it was. I was wondering if there was like a deeper meaning to the choices, but it was probably just like, well, that was what would have been out at that time.
Perhaps. I mean, we don't know that for sure. It's just interesting the way when he breaks it down, it makes me wonder things like how many people freeze frame to try to decrypt what's in the show, and is it worth it for the amount of effort and thought that goes into it for the less than 1% that's going to pause and examine the way Eric Voss might at the level of interest that Eric Voss and people like us have. You know what I mean? Like so few people might actually do that, but there's so much consideration and effort.
Yeah.
The first time I was aware of something like that was for the behind the scenes of Bad Boys 2, where there's this sequence that is modeled after Jackie Chan's Police Story 1, where Jackie Chan is like driving through a village. Likewise, Martin Lawrence and Will Smith are driving through a village as well, just barging through these little shanty houses and whatnot. And in the behind the scenes, you learn how much thought was put into every single shanty house that's there, down to the most minute details. And it just goes by, and you don't even think about it. Most people will never notice that. And now you're dealing with something here where there's plenty to decrypt, but how many people are actually going to spend that time?
You know, I think that set designers are amazing because I feel like it takes a special kind of person to be so passionate about designing these sets down to the minutest detail to make it so realistic, knowing full well that the majority of people won't even care, won't even notice. But I think it's one of those things where you kind of feel it.
Yeah.
You get the ambience, and if it's not quite there, it's not quite right, there's something off. And even if we wouldn't be able to pinpoint it in the way that Eric Voss or people who love to like really analyze and break things down can, there's just something where you just feel it.
Yeah. No, I hear you. I think that makes a lot of sense, actually. It's one of those things where you might not be aware of it, but it definitely has more of an authentic vibe somehow.
Yeah. I love how he brought the whole fact that it was bookended with similar type shots where we have Ellie holding the gun, but she's holding it not the cool way, but it's not the right way.
Yeah.
And then it ends on this kid who's even younger than her, but he knows how to hold a gun, and who knows what he's had to do. And yeah, like now I have so many questions about these characters and their life and what it was like living with these people, because surely Fedra wasn't great, like we know that, but then this new regime with Kathleen doesn't seem to be much better, to be fair.
Yeah, the bookends of this particular chapter, like, that's another thing that I would have never thought about.
Yeah.
But because of this video, I'm like, oh my God, that's right. It's like a little movie within a movie. You know, within the show. It's crazy. I would never think about that just at all. Like, maybe there's like this deep thing, like they bookended it very similarly.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
But in a way that highlights a difference. You guys hopefully enjoyed going on this little tiny journey with us. Please hit the subscribe button, bell icon, all notifications, and vote this up. Let YouTube know you're enjoying what you're watching. I'm Jabby Kawai. This is
ACHARA KIRK.
Peace out.